Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Everyday Carry for the Everyday Guy. So if you've been following me on social media lately, you will know that my EDC flashlight has changed. I've switched from the Olight Perun to the Manker MC11. Now, a lot of people have asked why the switch, and I haven't answered because I want to answer in this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the Manker in my normal review style, and then I'm going to explain to you the reasons for the switch and the differences between certain aspects you want to look out for in an EDC slash defensive flashlight. Okay, so let's get to testing. Those of you who follow my channel know if I see the word tactical on a box or on a flashlight itself, or there's any reference made to tactical application, it gets a 7 shoulder height drop test as well as a full water test where I cycle the flashlight underwater. Now in a previous video, people asked if I would drop my flashlight onto different surfaces. I didn't quite get it, but I thought, considering this is an EDC flashlight and I'm using it for EDC, it's highly likely that it will drop onto different surfaces, so I gave it a go. Okay, first off, we are dropping onto wood in my living room, and we've got no problem. Next, we're onto some stone slabs. Obviously, we know how hard that is. 2 drops here, and I'm not so much dropping it as I am tossing it up in the air because I want to get it to spin and land on like a random spot. It survives that just fine. And then dropping onto my normal surfaces where I normally do my drop tests, which is the street surface or pavement surface, and it survives that just fine. And then in the kitchen onto floor tiles. Fortunately, neither the tiles nor the flashlight cracked or broke. And then just to add a bit of fun to it, I decided to toss it across the street and see if it would handle that. And as you can see, it handled that just fine. And then onto water testing. Now, I have gotten some messages from people who asked if I could leave the flashlight in the water for longer, because apparently just having it dipped in water doesn't quite cut it. So I cycled the flashlight underwater, went through all the modes, and then if you keep an eye on my watch here, you'll see I leave it underwater for about, I think it's 3 or 4 hours. I'm obviously just sort of time-lapsing this because, yeah, it would just take too long to show in one go. But yeah, it looks like about 4 hours and 10 minutes, and then I cycle the flashlight again, and obviously we are good to go. The flashlight itself is IPX8 rated and has a 2-meter impact resistance, so pretty much anyone from shoulder height is going to be able to drop the flashlight without issue. Okay, so let's talk about Lumen's modes and functionality. This flashlight is what I like to call a dumb flashlight. Even though it has 2 buttons, this button here is purely for programming purposes. You can't put the flashlight on or off from this button. The only place to put the flashlight on or off is from the tail button right here, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, so starting at the lowest lumen setting, which is 1 lumen, you get that for 200 hours. 1 tap takes you up to 28 lumens, which you get for 29 hours. Another tap takes you up to 160 lumens, which you get for 7.5 hours. 1 more tap takes you up to 450 lumens, which you get for 3 hours. And then 1 last tap takes you up to 1300 lumens, which is max, which you get for 1.5 minutes. And after that, it dims to 550 lumens for 2.3 hours. Now, if you press and hold the side switch, it will take you into strobe. Now, the nice thing is every single setting, once programmed, is activated through the tail switch. That includes strobe. So if you do want to go full tactical, you can program the strobe onto the tail switch. Now, talking about that tail switch, what you'll notice is there are raised edges around the rear. That is to prevent you from accidentally activating the flashlight into constant on. The tail switch has a long travel, which I really like, right? You can see by the reflection on my hands when the flashlight comes on, right? And I keep pressing, and that is where it goes to constant on. So your ability to control it is outstanding. Left or right hand, it's very easy to momentary on this guy because of the sensitivity of when it comes on, but then the travel to constant on, okay? So you've got a lot of control over your momentary on, which from a defensive flashlight application is really useful. You very rarely want to go constant on when using your flashlight defensively. Okay, now on to flashlights for self-defense, and I'm going to talk about this both in just handheld and using with a firearm. So using a flashlight for self-defense is something I never really considered, right? And it's not really using it for self-defense, it's more using it for threat detection and threat deterrence. Okay, if you take the mindset of a bad guy, these guys are ambush predators. The moment you take away the element of surprise, they've got to make a decision as to whether they want to engage in conflict or combat. These guys don't want combat, they want victims. They don't want people to fight back. So when you hit them with a beam of light, immediately you take away one of the most important factors in an ambush situation, and that is the element of surprise. Not only that, you completely disrupt their visual horizon. What that means is they're probably going to be blinded for a second, and that very often is enough to deter a mugger from carrying out what he wants to do, because he's now at a disadvantage, and bad guys are cowards. They won't fight at a disadvantage. Or I don't say they won't, because I don't know every bad guy, but very rarely. Studies show that they very rarely want to take on a conflict when they are at disadvantage. Now, the nice thing about the flashlight, a handheld flashlight, is if someone does come up behind you and you light them up, and they're just someone who happened to be walking behind you, you can always apologize. If you do that with a firearm with a flashlight attached to it, it becomes a bit of a different story. Right? Similarly, using a handheld flashlight for utilitarian purposes. If you walk to your car and it's in a parking lot that's not well lit, you can just give it a quick burst, just to make sure no one's hiding behind your car waiting to ambush you. And if someone is, you've now seen them and you can take appropriate action. Our brains are data processors, and our most useful input into that is what we get through our eyes. And our eyes need light. So the more light we have in the situation, the more our eyes can process that data, the more data our brains have, and the better decisions we can make. This is why a handheld flashlight, for me personally, for an EDC, is mandatory. You've got to have a handheld flashlight, because there are things you can do with a handheld flashlight that you can't do with a flashlight attached to a firearm. So this is my EDC flashlight attached to a blue training gun, because I don't want YouTube to go a bit crazy with me having a firearm in the frame. And if I'm walking to my car and I feel something is not quite right, it's not socially okay for me to take out this and point it at anyone and say, hey, what are you doing there? Right? We aren't police, and people don't respond well to having firearms pointed at them. But if I do walk to my car and I light someone up and say, hey dude, what are you doing there? And he either chills and he's like, sorry man, I lost my keys, my pen, whatever, I'm looking for something. It's cool, you can keep your flashlight on, you can circle around him and go to your car. Or if he's dodgy, you can then make the decision with the data you just gathered to go for your firearm. Now, do you illuminate yourself when you activate the firearm? Yes, you do, and that's why momentary on is so important. You want to give a quick burst, get the information, and then move. Move in darkness, acquire information in light. Remember, if you can't see him and he can't see you, when you burst that light, even though there is the concept of you giving away your position, once it's off, it goes back to you not being able to see him and him not being able to see you. But with the light, you at least gathered more information. He will not know whether you are armed. He will know nothing. The bad guy, of course. You will at least know more or less what you're dealing with until you need to give another burst of light or take necessary action. Now, let's say you do need to go to your firearm and you are someone who doesn't like carrying a weapon-mounted light. Okay, there are a few techniques you can employ. I'm going to drop the flashlight lumens here so I can shine this at the camera and not blind you. Here's one of the reasons I really like this flashlight. It's very ergonomic for the type of flashlight firearm technique I prefer to use. Now I'm going to take you through a few of them. So we all by now are pretty familiar with the Harry's technique, right? It's this one here. So it's kind of like a back wrist to back wrist. What you want to think of is if you put a piece of paper in between your wrists, you want to apply enough pressure to hold that piece of paper there. This technique, I mean, we've all seen it in movies. It's not this, it's not that, it's this, because you want that pressure. You're still shooting one-handed, right? Which isn't ideal, but at least you have a little bit more support than the next technique. The next technique is the FBI technique. So the FBI technique is based on not having the flashlight anywhere near center mass. So it'll be up here, well, you can't really see, but it'll be up here with a firearm like that. So you're still shooting one hand, but if there is a fear of you making yourself a potential target, right, the FBI technique eliminates that. However, it is this technique that got me to buy a weapon-mounted light. The reason for that is now you are aiming two things, okay? And when I trained this technique, I found that I could do one. I could either aim my firearm and then I would eventually drift with a flashlight, or I could aim the flashlight and I would eventually drift a bit with a firearm. It was hard for me to do both at the same time. Now, granted, this is only for gathering information, but if you do need to pull the trigger, you want something that you're comfortable doing. Now, I'm not law enforcement, so if it remember, everything on channel is an opinion, nothing's a recommendation. If it does work for you, if you are law enforcement and it works 100%, you've got to do what you're comfortable with. I'm not an instructor, so go and learn from professionals. These are my opinions. Then you also get neck indexing, which is basically bring the flashlight up here. The nice part of this is if you do it correctly, you will be illuminating your sights as well, so you can get a nice sight picture if you don't have night sights. Although again, you're still shooting with only one hand, which for recoil control isn't great. Then there's the technique I like, which has so many names. I know it as the Rogers technique. There's people who call it the surefire technique. There's people who call it the cigar technique. It's basically holding the flashlight. Now, I do want to reference this. Look at this little gap over here, right? My fingers fit into there just perfectly. And then the flashlight goes against the meaty part of your thumb. What I'm able to do here is now almost get a full support hand grip on my firearm, right? And I'm still able to control, are you getting that? I'm still able to control that momentary on. So now it's about as close to a weapon mounted light as you can get, right? Whilst maintaining as good a grip as possible. This is useful because it doesn't change the way you would enter a room. It doesn't change the way you would move around cover. For example, if you are using the Harry's technique, right? So you are in this situation, for example. If cover is center screen and left, right? So this is cover and concealment, right? Center of screen and left. Everything to the side is a solid barrier, right? Coming around isn't a problem because your flashlight is on your firearm side. If cover is center and right, now in order to use that flashlight, you've got to lean all the way out to get your flashlight around that cover, which means there's more of it that has to come around. And that's where you might want to switch to like an FBI style technique. So to go back, hold the flashlight like it's a cigar, okay? And the back of your thumb can then very easily control it. Marry your hands up as if you were going for a two-handed grip. It's not going to be the world's best two-handed grip, but it's going to be a lot better than one hand. And as you can see, the flashlight and the muzzle are going in the same direction, right? So you've got way more, it's nearly a two-handed grip. So if I was to not carry a weapon-mounted light, I would want a flashlight I could do this with. So that if I had time to make a decision and come to the conclusion that I'm going to have to draw my firearm here, I would be able to still use my light to acquire the data so that I can make the most informed decision. Someone who looks super dodgy in pitch black might just be a guy hunched over tying his shoelace once you hit him with light. Now I do want to talk about Lumen versus Candela, okay? This flashlight has 1300 Lumen, right? My previous EDC had 2000. But the Perun has 3,500 candela and the MC11 has 6,000 candela. I want to show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is the Perun lighting up a garage door in full 2000 lumens, and that is the MC11 coming in. That's the difference between candela and lumen. We are 5 meters away from the garage door. The next one, we are 10 meters away. That's 2000 lumens at 10 meters away. The camera is still 5 meters away though. And this is the MC11 at 10 meters away with the camera 5 meters away. So you can see what candela versus lumens. Here we've got the Perun shining into the camera in 2000 lumens. And now we've got the MC11 shining into the camera with 1300 lumens, but crucially twice the candela. So candela is intensity, right? Lumen is the amount of light output. Candela is light intensity. Now for defensive purposes, you want that candela a bit more than you want that lumens, right? You want to be able to have a direct beam of light. Also with candela, you're going to have a much better hotspot. As you saw in the test, the Perun had virtually no hotspot, whereas the MC11 had a clearly discernible hotspot. That's what you want to put on your potential target's face if you're using your flashlight defensively. Just a side note on candela, this is the Manker MC11. This guy has 650 lumens, but 100,000 candela. So I'm doing a test of this in a few weeks' time. If you want to really see what lumen versus candela looks like, this is going to be that test. And it's not even really that big, 100,000 candela. So I know I said I never want to use a flashlight as a defensive tool or for defensive purposes, but it's nice to have the option. And that's why I'm going for the MC11. The Perun doesn't really give you the option for using a flashlight defensively or disorientatingly, right? As I said, a flashlight for defensive purposes is more of a tool for disruption, disorientation, and information gathering, okay? A flashlight doesn't fire a projectile. So to say you're going to use it as a defensive tool, it's a bit of a broad statement. Now, there are a lot of people who say, you know, why carry a flashlight? How often are you going to use it? And to that, I say, why carry a gun? How often do you use it? I carry my gun every day. I've never used my firearm in a real life situation. I carry my flashlight every day. I use it a ton, okay? It might not be every single day, but there are days when I'll use it 3 or 4 times a day, and it'll go 5, 6 days without using it, and I'll use it again. So remember, EDC is not about just carrying tools we use all the time. It's carrying tools we need in case. How often do you need a tourniquet? But it's very important to have one available when you need it. Similar concept with a flashlight. Even though you don't use it every day, it's important to have it available when you need it. Now, something I do want to mention about this light, can you hear this? Right? It sounds like poor build quality. What it actually is the battery fitting is less tensioned to allow you to fit any 18650 battery in here. So as you know, with Olight, not every battery fits an Olight. You might have an 18650 battery, but they are not created equal. So what Manker have done is they've given more play inside the flashlight to allow you to fit any 18650 battery in there. On the 18650 battery, it is micro USB rechargeable. A lot of people say it sucks that they have to take the battery out to recharge it. And it kind of does. But think about it this way. If you have 2 18650 batteries, right? This one charges while you use this one. Problem solved. Okay? If you have to charge the battery while it's in the flashlight, you can't use your flashlight while the battery is charging. So, kind of a problem. Also, a micro USB charger is probably the most common form of charging cable you'll find. So, you don't even really need the cable that they supply with the flashlight that's in the box, because you almost certainly have a micro USB cable somewhere in the house. In the box, packaging is definitely not as flashy as Olight's packaging, but that doesn't really matter. You get obviously your flashlight with your pocket clip, which we'll talk about in a second. You get a manual, you get your micro USB charging cable when my camera focuses, and you get a lanyard, and that's it. Now the pocket clip, let me just put everything back together. What you'll notice about the pocket clip, right, is the top of the clip is almost to the top of the flashlight. So less of this, even though the MC11 is longer than the Perun, less of this sticks out of my pocket, because look at the clip on the Perun. Look at the top of the clip on the Perun versus the top of the clip of the MC11. So it does conceal in your pocket much better. It sits much deeper. So guys, that's pretty much a comprehensive review of the Manker MC11. It's also a comprehensive answer as to why I've switched from the Olight Perun to the Manker MC11. I like the concept of not wanting to use a flashlight as a defensive tool, but I can if I want to, or if the situation arose. I like the ability to go two-handed if I'm not carrying a weapon-mounted light. I like the option now to say, if I'm not going to carry a weapon-mounted light and it is nighttime, I can still go two-handed and activate my flashlight, right? And I mean, it's really close to being a full two-handed grip. It's not quite there, but in my opinion, for control purposes, it's much better than all the other options. Just a reminder, guys, if you're watching some date of release, the Urban Warrior / Southwest Holsters competition, where I'm giving away 2 Southwest Holsters and any Urban Warrior piece of gear, is still live. It ends today, so you can still enter. That video will be in the description below or popping up in your screen right now. I want to say a huge thanks to Henry Beeman at Torch SA for sending me this. There are quite a few lights that's going to be reviewed in the channel, so if you are a flashlight lover, definitely stick around. I'm going to be showing off a lot of flashlights. I'm really keen to see what this guy does with over 100,000 candela. That's going to be very interesting. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video, guys. Remember, everything is an opinion, nothing's a recommendation. If there's something you don't agree with or something you think I can improve on, leave it in the comments below. I hope this video helped. If it did, maybe subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, maybe subscribe to a different EDC channel to support the EDC community. I'll see you guys soon for another review. Have a good week. Cheers. God bless.